In the hierarchy of artistic genres, the floral still life has never ranked very high, because what is the significance of painting a bouquet of flowers other than that it may look pretty? But flowers did play an important role in other genres across art history. The reason is that they could add symbolic meanings to aesthetic work. Last week's video discussed the meanings of the carnation, lily, rose and violet, and today we will look at some other flowers like the daisy, sunflower and daffodil. The roots of floral symbolism go back to antiquity, where plants were used in mythological stories as metaphors for vices and virtues. And none so is more clear than the daffodil or Narcissus, which has its origin in the story of the young and beautiful Narcissus who fell in love with his own reflection, being so obsessed with himself that he was finally turned into the flower that carries his name. And so the Narcissus is seen as a symbol of self-love and selfishness. In religious works, the Narcissus has a different interpretation, although it is at times a bit contradicting. The Narcissus is associated with the beginning of spring, as it is one of the first flowers to bloom, mostly irrespective of the weather. And as it is also often blooming at Easter, people have associated it with both the death of Jesus and with his resurrection. From what I understand, the association with the resurrection is the most common intention of artists, like in this Madonna of the Daffodils with the Child and Donors from around 1535 by Jan van Scorel. This painting, entitled The First Kiss from 1891 by Salvador Viniegra y Lasso de la Vega, shows the first romantic moment between Adam and Eve. This is a moment before they committed the first sin. In the foreground we can see many daisies, which are a symbol of purity, innocence and hope. And even today, most people would associate the daisy with innocence and purity, as it is often shown in association with maidens and children. The association with hope goes all the way back to ancient Greece, where the daisy was associated with the goddess of fertility and childbirth. When talking about flowers in art, it is hard to ignore the floral paintings by Vincent van Gogh, including his irises and his vases of sunflowers. And you may not have noticed it before, but the sunflowers in Van Gogh's work are definitely not in full bloom, in which they would symbolize a good life. Instead, the flowers are in various stages of decay, and in this way they form an analogy for human life and a reminder of our own mortality. However, the nice thing about the sunflower is that inside the flower head are the seeds of new life. So even though we are mortal, life will continue with a new cycle. Well, that may all sound nice, but it is highly questionable how important this symbolic meaning was to Vincent van Gogh. He just loved sunflowers and the challenge of painting them with a palette of limited colors. So just like I said in last week's video, with paintings from the 19th century and later, there's not always an intended symbolic meaning of the flowers included. They can also just be there for their sheer beauty, even if the sunflowers of Van Gogh are already decaying. It is more likely that Anthony van Dyck was aware of the symbolism of the sunflower in 1633 when he painted this self-portrait. During the day, the sunflower turns around to follow the sun, and therefore it was understood as a symbol for fidelity, devotion and loyalty. And in Van Dyck's case, it probably signified his loyalty to King Charles I, for whom he worked. Let's check a few more flowers. First of all, the dandelion, which you can see in these two works by Raphael. The dandelion is a bitter herb, and so it was used to refer to the bitterness of the Passion of Christ. There are several flowers you may discover in yet another painting by Raphael, which is the Madonna in the Meadow from 1506. The one that stands out most is the red poppy, a reference to the Passion of Christ. Further down, we can recognize a strawberry plant, a reference to the virtues of Mary. And if you wonder what these virtues are, there's a daisy on the bottom left, and we now know that this refers to purity, hope, and innocence. And just like this, I encourage you to pay attention to the presence of flowers in paintings from the past. Because if you do, you will gradually get a better understanding of the symbolic messages in these works, making a museum visit in the future all the more interesting. Let's do one more example, which is a central panel of the Portinari altarpiece from 1478 by Hugo van der Goes. It is a scene of the adoration of the shepherds, and in the foreground we see several flowers, including lilies on the left. Here they are scarlet lilies, not white ones, which we learned last week refer to the purity of the Virgin Mary. The scarlet ones instead refer to the Passion of Christ, just as the white and purple irises do, as these are the flowers that usually bloom around Easter. The violets refer to Mary's humility, as we discussed in detail last week. On the bottom right, there are 3 red carnations, which, because of their number, refer to the 3 nails on the cross. Finally, the columbines above the carnations are a reference to the Holy Spirit. In this video and the previous part, we learned the symbolic meanings of various common flowers. But that doesn't mean that it is always easy to understand the meaning of a historical painting. Take for example the Benoit Madonna by Leonardo da Vinci, also known as the Madonna and Child with Flowers. It shows Mary and Jesus, but to understand the symbolic message, we would need to identify the flower first. And to be honest, I am not really sure what this flower is. But I do see that both flowers have 4 petals, so it's not a reference to the Holy Trinity or so. Instead, it is believed that the shape of these 4 petals are a reference to the cross, and thus to the crucifixion of Jesus later in life. Well, I hope that this second part of this series about the symbolism of flowers was interesting. I would love to hear from you in the comment section down below about other paintings and flowers with potentially symbolic meanings. Finally, if you want to support the channel, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe and click the notification bell to be alerted when new videos are released. Thanks for watching.